Tonight, you're about to witness a story of courage, survival, and justice that will leave you speechless. A young police officer faces danger not only from ruthless criminals, but also from someone she should be able to trust. She's alone, outnumbered, and fighting for her life. What happens next will shock you, and the ending will stay with you long after the video is over. Watch until the very end. You won't believe how this story unfolds. Maya Johnson had learned, very early in her career, that silence inside a police station could be louder than gunfire. At just 22 years old, she was already an assistant inspector with the Metropolitan Police Department. Smart, disciplined, and relentlessly professional, Maya carried herself with a calm confidence that demanded respect, yet too often provoked unwanted attention. She was admired for her sharp instincts and unbreakable work ethic, but whispered about in corridors, watched a little too closely, judged a little too harshly. That evening, the station was unusually quiet. Most officers had already gone home. The fluorescent lights hummed softly above rows of empty desks. Maya sat alone, finishing paperwork from a routine arrest, her hair pulled back neatly, her uniform perfectly pressed. She checked her watch. 9:47 p.m. She was about to shut down her computer when her phone vibrated on the desk. Unknown number. She frowned slightly, then answered. "Inspector Johnson," she said calmly. A familiar male voice responded, smooth and authoritative. "Maya. This is Commander Richard Coleman." Her spine stiffened instantly. "Yes, sir." Coleman was her direct superior. A man with influence, connections, and a reputation that was complicated, publicly respected, privately feared. Maya had always sensed something unsettling about him. His lingering stares, his unnecessary comments, the way his presence filled a room like a heavy shadow. "There's an urgent meeting tonight," Coleman continued. "Very important. Confidential." Maya straightened in her chair. "At this hour, sir?" "Yes," he replied without hesitation. "Some matters can't wait until morning." She paused. Something about his tone felt off. Too casual, too personal. "Where will the meeting take place?" she asked. A brief silence followed. "At my residence," Coleman said. "It's more secure. No distractions." Maya's fingers tightened around the phone. "With respect, sir," she said carefully, "official meetings are usually held at headquarters." "I'm aware of protocol," Coleman replied sharply. Then his voice softened. "This concerns your future, Maya. I wouldn't call you if it wasn't serious." Her heartbeat quickened. Years in the force had taught her one thing. When power spoke, it expected obedience. Refusing could have consequences: bad assignments, stalled promotions, silent retaliation. "Yes, sir," she finally said. "I'll be there." "Good," Coleman replied. "Don't be late." The call ended. Maya sat motionless for several seconds, staring at her phone. A cold feeling settled in her chest. She packed her things slowly, locking her desk, scanning the empty station one last time. As she stepped outside, the city greeted her with distant sirens, streetlights flickering against the darkness. She took a deep breath and got into her car. The drive felt longer than usual. Traffic was light, the roads nearly empty. Buildings blurred past as unease crept deeper into her thoughts. She replayed every interaction she'd ever had with Coleman, every look, every comment she had brushed off, convincing herself she was overthinking. "You're a professional," she whispered to herself. "Stay focused." Coleman's house stood in an upscale neighborhood. Quiet streets, tall gates, expensive silence. She parked outside and checked the time. 11:02 p.m. Late. She rang the bell. The door opened almost immediately. Coleman stood there, dressed casually, no uniform, no documents in sight. A slow smile spread across his face. "You took your time," he said. "Traffic," Maya replied, keeping her voice neutral. He stepped aside. "Come in." The house was too quiet. No voices. No movement. No signs of any meeting. Maya walked in cautiously, her eyes scanning the space. "Sir," she said, stopping near the entrance. "You mentioned an official meeting. I don't see anyone else here." Coleman closed the door behind her. "That's because there is no one else," he said. Her heart dropped. He turned to face her fully now, his expression changing. No longer professional, no longer masked. "The meeting," he continued, "was just an excuse." Maya felt a surge of anger and disbelief. "Excuse for what?" she demanded. "For this," he said quietly. "I wanted to speak to you alone." She took a step back instinctively. "This is inappropriate," she said firmly. "You called me here under false pretenses. This behavior does not suit your position." Coleman laughed softly. "You're very beautiful, Maya," he said. "Do you know that? Intelligent. Strong. I've admired you for a long time." Her blood ran cold. "I have no interest in this conversation," she said. "I'm leaving." She turned toward the door. Coleman moved fast. He grabbed her arm, his grip firm, aggressive. "Let go of me," Maya shouted. "You think you can just walk away," he snarled. "I've waited too long for this." Fear exploded through her, but she didn't freeze. She shoved him with all her strength, breaking free. He stumbled back, surprised. Maya didn't hesitate. She ran. Out the door. Down the steps. Into the night. Her lungs burned as she sprinted toward her car, heart pounding, mind racing. She didn't look back. Behind her, the door slammed shut. And in that moment, Maya Johnson understood something with terrifying clarity. The danger wasn't just outside, in the streets. Sometimes, it wore a badge. Maya Johnson didn't stop running until her legs began to shake. She slid into her car, slammed the door shut, and locked it instantly. Her hands trembled as she started the engine. For a brief second, she sat frozen, staring at the steering wheel, trying to slow her breathing. Then she drove. The city rushed past her in streaks of light, but her mind was still trapped inside that house. Coleman's voice echoed in her head. His grip. The confidence with which he believed he could take whatever he wanted. Power had made him careless. And dangerous. When Maya finally reached her small apartment, it was nearly midnight. She locked the door behind her, leaned against it, and closed her eyes. Only then did she allow herself to feel it. The fear, the rage, the humiliation she refused to name. She went straight to the bathroom and washed her hands, scrubbing them harder than necessary, as if she could erase the memory of his touch. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirror, eyes wide, jaw clenched, shoulders tense. "You did nothing wrong," she whispered to herself. But the words didn't bring comfort. She barely slept that night. Every sound jolted her awake. Every shadow felt like a threat. By morning, exhaustion clung to her like a second skin, but her resolve was solid. She put on her uniform. At the station, the atmosphere felt different. Conversations stopped when she walked by. A few officers looked at her with curiosity. Others avoided her gaze entirely. Coleman wasn't there. That should have relieved her. Instead, it made her uneasy. By mid-morning, she was summoned, not to Coleman's office, but to Internal Affairs. The man waiting for her introduced himself as Deputy Commissioner Harold Brooks. Older. Calm. Observant. "Inspector Johnson," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "This won't take long." Maya's heart pounded. "Commander Coleman filed a report early this morning," Brooks continued. "He claims you behaved unprofessionally last night." Her breath caught. "He alleges that you misunderstood a private conversation, became emotional, and left abruptly." Maya stared at him in disbelief. He was controlling the narrative. "That's not what happened," she said firmly. Brooks raised an eyebrow. "Then I suggest you tell me exactly what did happen." She did. Every detail. The fake meeting. The empty house. The confession. The grab. The escape. When she finished, the room was silent. Brooks leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Do you have witnesses? No, Maya admitted. But I have my call logs. And my record. Brooks studied her carefully. This is a serious accusation. So is abuse of authority, Maya replied. He nodded slowly. You did the right thing by coming forward. But understand this. Men like Coleman don't fall easily. He has allies. Maya already knew that. By the end of the day, rumors spread through the station. Whispers followed her everywhere. Some believed her. Others didn't. That evening, Maya left work later than usual. She needed air, space, time to think. She decided to walk instead of driving. The streets were quieter than expected. Shops closing. Neon signs flickering. Her phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. You embarrassed me. This isn't over. Her blood ran cold. She quickened her pace. That's when she noticed them. 3 men standing near the corner ahead, blocking the sidewalk. Tall. Broad. Beards long and unkempt. Dressed in plain, almost monk-like clothing. One of them stepped forward. Inspector, he said with a crooked smile. Out alone this late? Maya stopped. Move, she said sharply. Another laughed. Relax. We just want to talk. I'm a police officer, she warned. Step aside. They didn't. Instead, they spread out, slowly, deliberately, cutting off every escape route. Her instincts screamed. She turned and ran. Footsteps thundered behind her. Her heart hammered as she sprinted through the empty streets, breath tearing from her lungs. The city felt endless and unforgiving. One of them grabbed her from behind. She fought back, elbowing hard, breaking free, but another caught her arm. If you won't be nice, one growled, we can be rough. That was the moment Maya understood. This wasn't random. This was punishment. Using the last of her strength, she slammed her head back into one man's face and bolted forward, disappearing into the darkness between buildings. The chase continued. Her legs burned. Her vision blurred. But she refused to stop. Because Maya Johnson had survived one trap already. And she would not fall into another. Not tonight. The night swallowed Maya Johnson whole. Her boots pounded against the pavement as she ran blindly through the maze of backstreets. Streetlights flickered above her, some broken, some dim, casting long, twisted shadows that seemed to move with her. Every breath burned her chest. Every step felt heavier than the last. Behind her, the footsteps didn't stop. They were close. Too close. She turned sharply into a narrow alley, knocking over a stack of empty crates. The crash echoed through the silence. She didn't look back. She couldn't afford to. Think. Move. Survive. That was her training. Her phone slipped from her hand as she ran, clattering uselessly onto the ground. No backup. No witnesses. Just her. And them. One of the men shouted, laughing. You can't run forever. A hand grabbed her jacket from behind, yanking her back. Maya twisted, driving her elbow into his ribs with everything she had. He grunted in pain and loosened his grip. She tore free and stumbled forward, nearly falling. Her heart felt like it would explode. She burst out of the alley and onto a deserted road leading toward an industrial zone, abandoned warehouses, dark factories, silence stretching for miles. No cars. No people. The worst place to be. The men followed, spreading out again, hunting her like predators who knew the game would end soon. Maya ducked behind a rusted truck, pressing her back against the cold metal. She forced herself to slow her breathing, listening. Footsteps. Heavy. Confident. One voice whispered, "She's scared now." Another replied, "Good." Maya closed her eyes for a second, not to give in to fear, but to focus. She remembered why she joined the force. Why she trained harder than everyone else. Why she refused to quit when others doubted her. I'm still standing. She reached down and grabbed a loose piece of metal from the ground, a broken rod, sharp at one end. It wasn't much. But it was something. A shadow moved. One of the men came around the truck, smiling, certain of his victory. Maya stepped out and struck. She drove the metal into his shoulder and shoved him backward. He screamed in shock, crashing into the dirt. The sound startled the others. "Get her!" one yelled. She ran again. Her strength was fading now. Her legs felt numb. Her vision blurred at the edges. She pushed through a broken fence and found herself inside an abandoned cement factory. Massive machines loomed like skeletons in the dark. She hid behind a towering piece of equipment, crouching low, clutching the metal rod like a lifeline. The men entered slowly. Their voices echoed through the hollow space. "I know you're here," one said. "Stop playing." Maya bit her lip to keep from breathing too loudly. A flashlight beam swept across the floor, inching closer. Her muscles tensed. When the man stepped too close, she exploded from hiding, swinging the rod with everything she had. It struck his leg. He went down hard, screaming in pain. She didn't wait. She bolted through another exit, back into the open night. But luck didn't last forever. Hands grabbed her again, two this time. She kicked, screamed, fought with everything left inside her, but exhaustion finally won. They dragged her toward an abandoned structure near the river, laughing breathlessly. "You're tough," one said. "But everyone breaks." Maya's body shook, not from fear anymore, but from fury. She looked up at them, eyes blazing. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." As they pulled her inside the dark, crumbling building, Maya made a silent vow. If this was the end of the chase, then it would be the beginning of their downfall. The room smelled of dust, rust, and old water. Maya Johnson was thrown onto the cold concrete floor. Pain shot through her shoulder as she hit the ground, but she didn't cry out. She refused to give them that satisfaction. The abandoned structure was barely standing. Cracked walls, broken windows, moonlight slicing through the darkness. Somewhere outside, the river moved slowly, indifferent to what was happening inside. The men stood over her, breathing hard. One of them laughed. All that running, for nothing. They tied her wrists tightly with a coarse rope and pushed her against a pillar. The rope burned her skin, but Maya focused on one thing only. Time. Time was the only thing she needed. She lowered her head, letting her shoulders sag. She let her breathing become shallow, her eyes unfocused. She played the role they expected, defeated, broken. It worked. The men relaxed. One leaned against the wall. Another sat down, pulling out a bottle. "Let's take it easy," he said. "No rush." Maya listened carefully, memorizing their voices, their positions, their weaknesses. She noticed a heavy wooden rod in the corner of the room. She noticed the loose knot in the rope. Sloppy. Overconfidence always made men careless. She lifted her head slowly. "You win," she said quietly. "There's no point fighting anymore." They looked at her, surprised. "That's right," one said smugly. "You're smart. You finally understand. But don't all come at me," Maya added softly. "I won't tolerate that. One at a time." They exchanged glances. One of them laughed. "Hear that? She's still trying to negotiate." But another shrugged. "Why not? She's not going anywhere." They moved away, leaving one man to watch her. The moment stretched. Maya leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Untie me a little. I won't run." The guard hesitated. Desire and stupidity clouded his judgment. He stepped closer. As he loosened the rope, Maya moved. Fast. She drove the heel of her boot into his groin with full force. The man collapsed, gasping in agony. Before he could scream, Maya grabbed the wooden rod and struck him across the head. He went limp. Maya didn't stop to celebrate. She ran. She burst out of the building and into the forest beyond. Trees blurred past as branches scratched her face. Her legs barely obeyed her anymore, but she forced them to move. Shouts erupted behind her. After her. She stumbled into another abandoned site, a deserted industrial plant. Massive machines loomed like giants in the dark. This time, she didn't hide. She waited. When one of the men rushed in alone, swinging a metal bar, Maya stepped out and struck his knee. He screamed and fell. She knocked the weapon from his hand and fled through another exit. The last two regrouped, furious now, desperate. They cornered her near a loading dock, surrounding her from both sides. One of them pulled out a rope. "Tie her again," he growled. "She's not getting away." Maya raised her hands slowly. "Okay," she said calmly. "I surrender." They stepped closer. That was their final mistake. Maya feinted left, struck right, using the rod with precision. She hit one man in the throat, the other in the ribs, then disappeared into the darkness once more. Her lungs screamed. Her body shook. But her mind was clear. She reached a safe distance, found cover, and pulled out her backup phone, cracked, but working. She dialed one number. "Central," she whispered. "This is Inspector Maya Johnson. I've located the suspects. I need immediate backup." She ended the call and leaned against the wall, eyes closing for just a second. The hunt was over. Now it was their turn to run. The sound of sirens cut through the silence of the night. Blue and red lights flooded the abandoned industrial zone, washing the darkness away. Armed units moved in with precision, weapons raised, voices sharp and controlled. "Police. Don't move." Maya Johnson stepped out from the shadows, her uniform torn, her face bruised, but her posture unbroken. "There," she said, pointing toward the structures behind her. "They're inside." The officers advanced. The three men tried to flee, but there was nowhere left to run. One tripped. Another dropped his weapon. The third raised his hands too late. Within seconds, they were on the ground, handcuffed, their confidence shattered. Maya watched in silence as they were dragged to their feet. The hunt was over. At dawn, the city woke up to the truth. The investigation moved fast. Surveillance footage, physical evidence, witness reports, everything aligned with Maya's testimony. The men were identified as repeat offenders, hiding behind false identities, preying on women who walked alone at night. They were charged with multiple counts of assault, abduction, and attempted murder. But the story didn't end there. Internal Affairs reopened the case against Commander Richard Coleman. Call records, text messages, prior complaints buried under silence. A pattern of abuse that had gone unchecked for years. This time, it couldn't be ignored. Coleman was suspended, then arrested. The courtroom was packed when the verdicts were read. Maya stood tall as the judge delivered the sentences, decades behind bars for the attackers. The weight of justice fell heavy and final. When the gavel struck, the room fell silent. Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Maya didn't stop. She walked past them, head held high. Weeks later, Maya returned to duty. The station felt different now. Quieter. Respectful. Eyes that once doubted her now followed her with something else. Admiration. She hadn't just survived. She had exposed the darkness hiding behind authority and fear. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Maya stood alone on the rooftop of the station. The wind brushed against her face. The scars would fade. The memory would remain. But so would the lesson. Justice isn't automatic. It demands courage. And sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is refuse to stay silent. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories like this. We want to hear from you. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And tell us, where are you watching from? We love seeing fans from all over the world.